Next, we have a special address by Mr. Mark Dixon, who's the chair of the PMI Board of Directors. His topic is on developing project leaders. Mr. Dixon possesses more than 3 decades of experience in managing and leading multidisciplinary teams delivering small to multi-billion-dollar projects across the world.
He has been part of the PMI Board of Directors, served as the Vice Chair, and in 2017, he has been elected as the new Chair of the PMI Board. Request Mr. Dixon to please join us on the stage.
It's a great pleasure to be here in Chennai, and thank you very much for inviting me to speak. I do note that I'm the second last speaker of the day. It's a very long day. I'll try to keep you all interested, but I'm also lucky that it's today and not tomorrow when the first of the one-day series is being held just down the road here, so our minds may be elsewhere. As an Australian, I think I should wish you good luck for tomorrow, but I won't, because I think we need the luck, not you. So over the years, as mentioned in the introduction, over the years I've managed many projects, very large projects, and I've been privileged to work with many Indians in those projects, and I have been impressed by the project management ability of all the Indians I've worked with, actually. And we've worked on, well done. We've worked on smart city projects, we've worked on affordable housing projects, we've worked on transport infrastructure projects, which interestingly align very closely with the Vision India projects, which are going to be developed over the next few years. And as I said, I was very impressed by the ability of Indians to be able to successfully deliver projects. And the Project Management Institute research has actually reinforced that, in that our research shows that you do successfully, efficiently and effectively deliver projects here. And over the next 10 years, as Vision India rolls out, the demand for project managers is going to increase and increase dramatically. So what we're talking about today is very relevant in how you can develop your skills and the nation's capability in being able to develop project leaders to be able to satisfy your vision, your leader's vision. People are an organisation's most valuable asset. Now, you've probably heard that before. You've probably read it in every annual report you've seen in the last few years. And every time a visiting executive comes from head office somewhere and addresses the staff, they probably say something like that. It has become a bit of a cliche, but even as a cliche, it is still very true. People are an organisation's most valuable asset, but what we need to do is be able to move beyond the platitudes, beyond the rhetoric, and actually have organisations demonstrate it so that you actually feel like your organisation's most valuable asset. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how not only you can become your organisation's most valuable asset, but also how you can demonstrate to your organisation your abilities. Organisations now are regarding project management as a key strategic capability in the global marketplace, in the global work environment. Building high-performing teams, building teams of people with the right skills and the right capabilities is actually essential to being successful and being a high performer in the current market. It's essential that you actually be able to have the organisations outperform the competition so that you can continue to lead and not be passed by the competition. I mentioned Vision India previously. Our research has shown that over the next 10 years, the demand for project management practitioners, the demand for the capacity of project management within the country is going to grow by something like 7 million people. 7 million people is actually 25% of the world's growth in project practitioners over the next 10 years. So not only is the 7 million a large number for India, it's actually a significant contributor to the growth in the profession over the next 10 years globally. So what we're looking at is about 700,000 people every year. Now that's for you as a practitioner, that means you're in the right place at the right time and things are looking pretty rosy. But for employers and people that actually are on the demand side, it can be quite a daunting experience. In fact, 3/4 of executives are telling us that the talent gap is keeping them up at night. Organisations recognise that having the right people with the right skills is essential in delivering projects. But currently in organisations, the skill shortage is severely hampering their ability to deliver strategic initiatives. In fact, across the board, skills deficiencies and resource deficiencies are hampering just the routine conduct of operations. And executives don't actually have the answer for this solution. So it's something that we've got to work with as an institution and as a group to be able to develop these and assist our organisations to be able to satisfy the demand that Vision India and all the other initiatives in the country have on the country. Project management is not a skill that will solve all problems. Project management is, when I say it's not a skill, project management is not a single skill that you can go out and achieve. Project management is a system of behaviours, of competencies and of skills. It's a system that needs to be adapted to every project or program to make sure that we've got the appropriate balance of people and skills to satisfy the demands of that particular project. And if we are missing an element of that competency set, then we risk the whole thing collapsing. So what we've got to make sure is that we have a holistic approach to the development of leaders and the development of skills in the profession. So what we've looked at so far is that currently there is a deficiency in the amount of project managers, the right people with the right skills in the marketplace. And not only is there a deficiency today, but that deficiency is going to grow by 700,000 every year for the next 10 years. We've identified that the requirement to have the right people with the right skills is essential to success. We've identified that industry doesn't have ready answers to these problems. So what does that mean to you? Well, hopefully it means that you're in a great position. But let's position you even better to be able to satisfy that demand and advance your project management careers. This is a quote from Charles Darwin, which is often misquoted. It's not the strongest, the fastest, the quickest that survive, but it's actually those who can adapt the best. And in current times, there's a lot of disruptors out, as we heard in the previous speaker talking about the requirement for innovation in response to disruption. So as the environment, the business environment, the global environment changes, we need to be able to adapt our skills to those requirements that the modern marketplace has. And I suggest we need to adapt our skills not only to survive, but actually to go that one step further and adapt to become champions. Because we owe it to ourselves and our country to be able to be champions and successfully deliver projects across the board. In response to discussions with executives around the world, Project Management Institute has developed a framework of skills and competencies required to successfully deliver projects. And you've probably all heard about the talent triangle or seen the talent triangle previously, but what I'd like to do today is just talk to it a little bit more. So the talent triangle is a framework for the development of the right skills to be able to satisfy the demands of the modern marketplace. And we're looking at three key elements. We're looking at the element of technical project management, leadership, and business and strategic skills, strategic management rather. Now, I'll talk about each one of those separately in a little while, but as a system, that's what's required to move forward. But we've actually validated that triangle against the market demand. And by talking to CEOs, we've actually interviewed to determine what they believe is the current skills required so that we can continually adapt our skills to meet the current marketplace and be relevant in the current market. So CEOs have ranked the skills that they require today. And we're talking about problem-solving, adaptability, leadership, creativity, innovation, which was mentioned by the previous speaker, and emotional intelligence. And maybe luckily, but I think it's more science, that our talent triangle framework actually satisfies all of those current demands that are required in the marketplace today. So what I'll do is expand a little bit on each one of the demands or each one of the elements in the framework so that you can fully understand maybe the skills you require to develop. There we go, stop. Okay. So obviously I don't have enough technical skills for you. So the first one is technical project management. Technical project management are those things that we traditionally associate with project management. These are the things you learn when you do a project management course. These are the things that are in the PMBOK guide. These are the things that you have probably been, if you're a practicing project manager, you've been practicing and honing your skills on. They are essential skills required to be a project manager, to be an effective project manager. Nothing's changed there. These are the skills that you need to develop to be a good project manager. Interestingly, these skills, we're told, are the hardest to find in the marketplace. They're rare skills. But the good news is that they are the skills which are the easiest to learn, the easiest to develop. So if you don't have these skills, you can easily pick these skills up and develop them, and also you should continue to hone these skills to better perfect your performance as a project manager. The other interesting point is that when we talk about things like automation and artificial intelligence, these are the skills which are most likely to be undertaken in an artificial intelligence environment. And I can talk about my time as a project manager and the experiences I've had, that the fact that a lot of these skills will be automated is not actually something that you should be afraid of. For me, it's actually something that I'm embracing, because if I go back to my early days as a project manager, where I would have a room half of this size with rows of desks and ladies with typewriters and a thing called a typing pool, and that's where your specifications went, that's where your reports went for a week or so before they came out the other end. That's now been automated, which is a good thing. And on another floor, you would have a room full of drawing boards with men. And it was women in one room and men in another room in those days. And you'd have all these draftsmen with pen and ink. And again, you put your sketches in there, and a week or two later, you get your drawings back out on film, you'd send it back. And equally, in the basement, there would be a thing called a registry or a document control office, where again, documents would go for a week or two before they come out the other side. So all of those things have been automated, and that's actually good news, because what it means, as a project manager, you've got more time to be able to do the analysis and the thinking and the decision-making, the creativity, which is what we're here for. We're not here to do the mundane tasks. We actually perform better when those mundane tasks have been taken away from us. So the fact that artificial intelligence may be taking away some of these technical activities is not a big threat to us. I think we should be looking at that as a positive. So with projects, it's no longer enough to be able to manage those technical skills. It's essential to be able to master them, but to go further, you need more than just technical skills. And in fact, projects now are becoming bigger and bigger. Gone are the days where you had a linear arrangement of single discipline projects, one after the other. Projects are now becoming multidisciplinary. They're becoming multifaceted, multi-phased. They're becoming multinational projects. Projects are becoming multi-billion-dollar projects. It's not uncommon to have projects in the billions of dollars. And in fact, we had one announced yesterday here in India of the high-speed rail, which was just over $17 billion. And that was not even one leg of the four legs of the rail network that were being developed. So you can see that by the time the whole high-speed rail network is in place, you're talking about something of the order of $100 billion. And projects of that size cannot be managed. You cannot manage a $1 billion project, let alone a $10 billion project. What you have to be able to do is lead a $1 billion project or lead a $10 billion project, which requires a different set of skills. Now, the thing about leadership skills is that they cannot really be taught. Leaders aren't born. You can't learn leadership. What you have to do is make leaders. You have to experience leadership. You have to make mistakes. You have to grow in the leadership field. So whilst they're not taught, and they're not, well, you can get a few born leaders, but invariably what you need to do is manage your career such that you develop those leadership skills and you make yourself into a leader. So what are the leadership skills? Well, the leadership skills, there's a few on the board there about communicating, negotiating, motivating, inspiring your people, having a vision for your project and instilling that vision with your team. It's about bringing your team with you. It's about creating a dream for your team, inspiring your team with that dream and actually motivating them and getting them to buy into that dream. What leadership is about is building high-performing teams. High-performing teams to be able to deliver under pressure and achieve the ultimate objectives of the organisation and the project. The last area is in strategic and business management. Now, simplistically, organisations or project leaders must understand the strategy and the business, the context of of the project. It needs to be able to, or the project leader needs to be able to articulate the project within the strategic environment or the business environment, to be able to align the project with the corporate strategy. They need to be able to recognise what the benefits required are to deliver the higher order strategy and be able to articulate what the benefits of that particular project are and how that contributes to the strategy. Because if the project is not contributing to the strategy, there's no point doing the strategy. So we're in the technical, or no point doing the project rather. So in the technical project management area, we concentrate on doing projects right. In the strategic and business area, we concentrate on doing the right projects that contribute to the strategy. So the key is to do the right projects right. That's a relatively simplistic view of why we do strategic and business management. To me, the fundamental reason why a project manager, a project leader, understands business and strategy is to be able to fit into the organisation. We don't do projects to give project managers something to do. We do projects because they add benefit to the country or to the corporation. So project managers, project leaders need to be able to speak the language of business, not talk in technical project management jargon. They need to be able to communicate effectively with the organisational leadership. And that's not just at a superficial translation level, that's at a core understanding of the needs and the reality of business. So as a project leader, one of the key things you need to be able to do is to relate to your business leaders. As a project leader, you need to be able to sell your project to the business leaders. You need to be able to understand what that business leader's vision, dream, and day-to-day concerns are, and show how your project is relevant to them, how your project is contributing to making them look good, contributing to assisting them live up to their promises and do the right thing. Because if you can actually show your business leaders the value and the relevance of your project to them, they won't regard it as some operational function that lives out the back. They will actually notice. If it's going to make them look good, they're going to help you. They're going to make sure that you've got the resources, you've got the funding, and any assistance you require to remove hurdles or remove roadblocks. So one of the key reasons that project leaders need to understand about business and strategic management is to be able to market the project to the people that count, to be able to convince your business leaders that your project is essential for them and get their buy-in to the process and the system. So one of the things we'd like to be able to do is take project management from a backroom technical function, the IT guys in the basement, and bring them up into a mainstream business function, a mainstream strategic capability within the organisation, and get the visibility that we deserve in being able to deliver people's dreams and people's visions within the organisation. And we'll only do that, this thing's got a life of its own here, but we'll only do that if we understand the business and understand the strategy. Now, that sounds great, but where do you fit into that, and how? I don't suggest that you all go off tomorrow and start knocking on your CEO's door and saying, I'm here to make myself essential to you. It's actually a career that you're embarking upon, certainly if you're at the early stages. And what I'd like to do on this slide is to demonstrate to you how you may develop those skills. And I was talking before about leadership skills not being taught and not being born. What you need to be able to do is make those leadership skills and develop them. And this is how you can do that. So when you start your career, when you graduate as a civil engineer, a structural engineer, as a financier, as a lawyer, as a software programmer, you will spend your first couple of years in the technical discipline that you have. You need to be able to become work-hardened, understand the environment, understand what the business is all about, understand the technology, understand how to survive in the corporate world. Most of the work you'll be doing is on your particular discipline, honing those skills. You will require to understand the context of how you're working, so you will understand, you know, who's working in the office next door or downstairs or across the road, the allied disciplines. You will need to understand a bit about project management so you can manage your day. You will need to understand the strategic or business context, but primarily you'll be concentrating on your core technical discipline. And as you advance, you will learn more about the people across the corridor, how your discipline interrelates with other disciplines. You become more of a multidisciplinary specialist. You'll become more of so if you're a highways engineer or a structural engineer, you'll understand a little bit about the highways people. If you're a lawyer, you might understand a bit more about finance. Or if you're a programmer, you might need to understand a bit about the hardware or the BA or whatever it is that you need, the people you're working with. So you're just growing your expertise. You'll probably grow a little bit of leadership because you might be given, as an experienced professional, you'll be given a few other people to work with. You might experiment in some project management tasks. Eventually you'll become a team leader. And in that team leader's role, you'll still be spending a lot of your time in your core discipline, but you will have developed a lot more multidisciplinary skills and responsibilities. You will need to be able to understand more about project. By that stage, you'll be given small projects. You'll need to understand about leadership. You'll be able to make mistakes as you're developing and learn and grow. And you'll need to have a slightly broader context of the strategy. But at this point, you'll probably need to make a decision as to whether you want to continue on and become your organisation's chief engineer or best software programmer, or you want to continue on in the legal profession and become an eminent lawyer, or you want to make the break across into the project management area. Now, if you're moving across into project management, you will probably be required to leave your core discipline behind. And what you'll need to do is not be biased towards your core discipline, but actually treat the allied disciplines equally. So you're part of the team and not a specialist one-man show or one-woman show. So what you'll be doing then is, as a project manager, not only will you be developing the multidisciplinary skills, you'll be developing greater skills and greater emphasis in the project management and the technical project management areas. You'll probably be developing your business and strategic skills, but significantly, there will be a quantum leap into leadership, because as a project manager, you will now be leading a team. You'll be responsible for all the aspects of that team. And as you grow into the senior project management roles, the leadership will grow until you become a project leader. And in the leader role, you could be spending 80 or 90% of your time in pure leadership. You need to have an understanding of those technical, those business, those other allied discipline type skills. You need to understand the context. At that point, the technical side is the context, and you'll be concentrating almost entirely on leadership. And this is how the talent triangle evolves over time. So we're not expecting you to all go off and become great leaders on day one. You need to be able to develop those leadership skills, and this is the context for the talent triangle. Now, professional development and developing your team is not easy. It's very hard to work with people, especially if you're a software programmer or an engineer, and I can say that being an engineer, it's actually terrifying dealing with people. So actually being responsible for training them is not easy, but it's something, if you want to become a leader, you have to do it. And one of the things, it's becoming more and more difficult because in the current climate where everybody's cut the professional development budget, they've actually outsourced half your project team anyway, so you've actually got no control over their development, or you're actually spending money. If you want to develop people, you're developing people that don't even work for your company. And also, the other issue is that we're actually all very Our workplace is such a demanding workplace now, you don't actually have time to send people away on a course. You've got deadlines to meet. So it's a very difficult situation to be in. But one of the things, if you take one thing away from this meeting, is that professional development and building the skills in your team is a leadership function. It's not a function of HR. This is not something you can delegate to HR and hope that HR is going to develop your team. This is something that you do as a project leader. You look after the welfare of your team, you look after their development and their progression and their skills. And next slide will demonstrate that. So, making project managers or your line managers responsible for their teams is actually a value leader. And what we're looking at, the 70-20-10 rule for training or learning, I'm not sure whether people are familiar with that, but it's a pretty universally accepted rule now. But what it's interesting to note is that 10% of learning is structured learning. So 10% of your development of your competencies and your skills is achieved by attending courses, achieved by listening to me, achieved by reading, by formal courses, universities, and even attending conferences. That's only 10% of your overall development of your competencies. 20% is social learning. That's networking, talking, relating to other people. It's being coached or being mentored. And a whopping 70% of your ability to develop your competencies is workplace experience, making mistakes, trial and error, working with other people, having people show you, and just keep persevering on all the tasks that you need to do, and going from one task to another and growing your skills, getting outside of your comfort zone. Now, what is most interesting to note here is that the 70 plus the 20, the 90% of learning, of development of your competencies is not something that HR does or university does. It's something that happens in the workplace. It's something that happens underneath the project manager as the leader of the team. So this demonstrates that the development of skills, development of project management competencies is something that is directly related to the project manager. So I've got a time wave there, so I'll just quickly run through. So what we're now saying is, how does PMI help? Well, PMI can help in the structured learning area because we have the REPs, we've got credentials, we've got the specifications, the standards, we've got the websites, and the webinars. We've got a whole series of areas there. At the chapter level, we've got the formal monthly meetings that can provide some structured learning. But also, we've got the chapters, and you can become involved at the chapter level, and that provides the social learning, the networking. Most chapters now have mentoring programs, so you can be mentored within the PMI environment. You can actually experience, if you're a software engineer and you want to learn marketing, where do you do that? Well, I'm sure if you front it up to your local chapter, they'd have you working on a marketing team or a finance team or some other business team that runs the chapter, so you can actually develop those business skills. There's the Leadership Institute where you can actually grow skills. You can practice your skills, you can practice your leadership skills within the PMI environment. So as the slide says, good things happen when you get involved with PMI. Also, the other thing which is of great benefit to you is our salary surveys show that organisations appreciate project management credentials. The PMP is appreciated, not only it's appreciated so much people are prepared to pay a premium extra for it. And in India, the survey shows that there's nearly a 40% premium on people with a PMP. So people with a PMP are paid 40% more, or almost 40% more, than those without in a project management role. So, just to conclude, I'd like to commend you to develop your skills. And as we said at the start, that to remain relevant, you need to adapt. We need to make sure that we adapt our skills using the talent triangle to remain relevant. We need to adapt our skills not only to survive, but actually to be champion project managers and build high-performing teams and deliver programs successfully. So what I would like you to do is to go away from here, take this knowledge and actually adapt and be part of the growth of the country and become champions for project management and yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon, for traveling across the globe to attend the PMI National Conference India 2017 and rendering a wonderful speech to the gathering. As a sign of our gratitude, we would like to present a memento and a spot event photograph in memory of the conference to Mr. Dixon. May I request Mr. Ramam Atmakuri, Senior Volunteer PMI, to do the honor.
Thank you, sir.